Hello, welcome to Milton Keynes Central, and we're going to be taking a Railtour service today, and we're going to be going from Milton Keynes through to Stratford. So we're going to use the West Coast Main Line South route and the Mild Main Line route as well. Let's find our traction for the day and make our way. So here it is. Class 37 and the Mark 1 stock. The Mark 1 stock is straight out of the East Coast Main Line Railtour pack. And we've got 37505. It's a little bit fictional because I've no idea whether there's a 37 in these colours out at the moment in real life. I suspect there isn't. But I can't quite like the livery, that was the thing. Let's get the doors open. And then up the steps. And into our seat. Let's get the doors unlocked. Master key on. Reverser into forward, and then we'll sort out the AWS. That little fiddly lever down there. Actually, it's probably easier to do it when you're out of your seat, because you can actually get to the better side of it a little bit. I think I've done it, haven't I, actually? Yeah, okay. Yeah, we are up there, aren't we? Yeah, we're fine. So AWS is on. Headlights are on. And we should be able to shut our doors and get going. So that's the back of the train. Just quite like this livery, and I'd kind of felt fancy giving this a run out. Let's just turn the sound up in the cab a little bit. I turned it down just for the outside view as we were walking towards the train. Get the doors locked. Just waiting for the brakes to release properly down there. Slow old process, nothing happens quick when you're driving the 37. Okay, we should be able to get going then now. And again, I mean, one of the problems I have with train driving on the train game is I'm sort of so used to driving the new stock, I tend to just whack the throttle into 100%, and of course you're not going to be able to do that with an old train like this. So I think we are limited to 85 mile an hour, but if we get faster speed limits allowed in our journey, then we'll see if we can get above that. I think I'm right in saying these Mark 1 carriages would be restricted to 100 miles an hour. there was no way we were going to catch up the Pendolino even going at full speed. Well, I hope you're doing well. It's Good Friday as I'm recording this, so it's a great day for me because it's the first of the 4 days over the Easter weekend, and the first time I've had off from work really since Christmas, so it's felt a long old time coming. Actually, I'll tell you what we'll do. We will just change the weather a little bit, put a little bit of cloud in there, I think. Okay, it's nice to have some puffy white clouds. But I just fancied doing this run really because the one thing I've always really liked about Train Simulator Classic and with Train Sim World now increasingly, the fact that you can get to the point where we've kind of got joined up runs where it's possible to do a run such as this. So Milton Keynes to Stratford. We are going to be stopping at Watford Junction, and then it'll be kind of end of part one at Willesden Junction because we'll join the Malmö line add-on, and this is in free roam of course, so I've not set a scenario up, but of course the great thing about free roam is the fact that you've still got all your timetable stuff going on. So this time I'm using the Forks timetable rather than the 2019 one. We have got a double yellow as we come towards Bletchley. And of course the thing to remember is this is in amongst the timetable, so I'd be very surprised if we get a completely free run through to Stratford. So flashing single yellow, so that tends to suggest that rather than this being necessarily where we're going to be held by a signal, it's more likely to be a diverging junction. But we'll take it steady at this stage. Oh right, there we go. So that's changed to green for the, I think it's like an approach control junction. So we are nicely doing 60 anyway, which according to the track monitor on the top right is the right speed to be going over the points here. So we are at least for the moment going to be on the up fast line. And we've got green again, so we can get full throttle up, get up to as fast as we possibly can with this 37. Not driven it massively, certainly not this version of it. I've driven the ROG one a few times, and this is just a little formation I created in Formation Designer. I'll be honest, I would have been tempted to have done this run with the green 47 with 47484 Isambard King of Brunel, but at the moment you don't have any brake rub sounds on it, so I'm kind of thinking I'm not going to drive it again until we've got a couple of upgrades working for it. As I'm recording this, I think services are in use today between London Euston and Milton Keynes, but then over the bank holiday weekend, over the Easter weekend, it's going to be completely shut, this section, for engineering works. Very often the case over a bank holiday weekend. I remember coming back actually off holiday once. I think I've been to Thailand, but it was it might even have been the Easter weekend. It was certainly a bank holiday weekend on the Saturday, and I'd never given it a second's thought about it being a reduced service or there being any engineering works. I should have done really, but I remember arriving at London Euston and it being more or less chaos. And virtually everything was a replacement bus service. I'd flown into Heathrow, and I just managed to find one particular train. I think it was one of the North Wales Coast services, because it was a Voyager, and we went a rather circuitous route because we started out from Euston, went across the first bit on the West Coast Main Line, and then we actually took the North London line briefly, and we did end up back home in Staffordshire, but it was kind of a bit convoluted. Can't remember if we went down the middle of Main Line. So this is Leighton Buzzard. I'm kind of wondering whether in real life we would have been routed via the fast lines at this stage, because you sort of feel we're holding things up a little bit at 78 miles an hour. Perfectly possible to actually use the go via and change the routing. I love how there is all these variations, and this is the different compared with Train Sim Classic, because yes, you've got the ability to do free roam in Train Sim Classic, but and you do the quick drive as well, but it's just not the same as this timetable mode where you've got all the other stuff going on. So quite dynamic. just kind of a... It's not the most scenically interesting route in the world, but it is kind of classic English rolling hills, countryside. I think generally because my train trips over the years into London have been essentially leisure trips, so I'm kind of always quite excited on a journey going down towards London. But on this occasion we won't be getting as far as London Euston. We'll be taking a divergence, if that's the right word, onto the Mildmay line and go towards Stratford. And I'm expecting, if we get a reasonably free run to Willesden Junction, then brilliant, but I can't imagine we're going to have the same experience when we do the Mildmay line. So this should be Cheddington. I still feel as though, for all the many times I've been up and down it on Trainsim World 5, I still don't know these stations inside out, and I have to kind of write it down just to remind myself. The idea there, the allotment going on, bit of variation. So as I'm recording this, it's been announced the date for the next cargo line pack, which is the, I think it's volume 3, is it? It's going to be the intermodal pack. So yes, I know we've got intermodal wagons at the moment, but this is just adding a few more variations. I'm right in saying this is Tring Cutting that we're going through now. I think it was a massive undertaking when the line was built. Of course, nowadays you have all the modern machinery to cut through the landscape, the hillside such as this, but back in the 1800s it was all done by hand, very dangerous, and certainly people died in the process of building this line. Probably said it before, but it'd be very interesting to bring back the people from those times and let them see the modern railway, and I think they'd be proud and pleased to see that it still exists, but amazed by the modern developments. Here's Tring Station itself. Still on a bit of an uphill climb, so the flat, and I've got a feeling it's not far off being a slight descent, more or less, most of the rest of the journey on the West Coast Main Line. I'll be interested at some point to do an extended freight run as well, where it's involving both the West Coast Main Line and then the North London line. It'd be possible to do a trio, really, because you could take then the North London line as far as Gospel Oak and then move on to the Barking Riverside or the Goblin line, and you could take a train to Ripple Lane. Yeah, so we're beginning to build up a bit of speed now that we've got a slight downhill gradient. It's really good to see the longevity of the 37s in many ways. I think the ROG ones are still out in use. I think they hold the 50, well, I don't know if it was a 507, 508, but one of the Merseyrail old PEP units was scrapped to Newport a few months back. I say one service, there's probably a few services like that, but I can remember seeing one video of it. It's kind of an irony that there's more 37s still left, both available for use on the main line, but also in heritage and preserved as well, than there is ever going to be. I think there's going to be one of the Merseyrail trains preserved, thankfully. Berkhamsted. Going to make the one stop at Watford Junction, and then this kind of part one will bring us to a halt. But there's the one of the special livery ones. That was the Pride train livery, wasn't it? Hemel Hempstead. I think we've got a northbound 350 stopped. Then we've got another northbound 350 which is waiting by the looks of it for the stopping train to clear. Well, that is getting that's three of them close together there. You get Apsley, Kings Langley, Watford Junction. Might get back into Train Sim Classic and do another few scenarios I've got in my mind. So, this is recognisably Kings Langley. Now, I can't remember whether I've ever checked out on this, but here's the M1. First time I've ever seen that properly. It would have been good if they'd made the effort to put at least the road markings in. Did I say the M1? I meant the M25. Now here's the Watford tunnel, so we know we are not too far away from the approach to Watford Junction. We don't have any markers to tell us the exact distance to the station, so we'll have to think about getting the speed down a little bit, I think. Yeah, I'm sure I said the M1. Certainly meant the M25 at that point. So at the moment we've got the two lines because there's a little bit of a separation between the slow and the fast line tunnels at Watford Junction. Slightly different experience driving this 37 than the Pendolino today. I mean, if Dovetail Games either do the Gemma line at some point, then you can imagine kind of a run. We could do Milton Keynes to Ipswich or something like that, or we could go the other way and do Milton Keynes to London Liverpool Street, and the same with the East Coast main line south, because you'd be able to take on board a run from Milton Keynes to King's Cross, or for north to Peterborough, something like that. mean, it's technically possible to get into St Pancras, possibly King's Cross. I haven't actually tried that. We are at Watford Junction, 7:10, waiting to go on a stoppage service through to London Euston, and then we've got a 3:50 over there in the platform as well. That's on a southbound run. As well, that'll be going to Euston. And we've got a southern service as well, going to Wembley Central and on to East Croydon. Looks as though the 350 is going to get the departure though first of all. Really is a busy scene with we've got the 7:10 now arriving into the platforms. We missed the other one departing, but this is what you get with the Forks timetable. Again, just waiting for that brake gauge just to ease its way down. There we go, that should just about do us. I think it's true to say we are holding the services up because yeah, that Pendolino's waiting for clearance into the platform. I think yeah, it's got the clearance now. I think if this had been real life, we would have been routed into another platform at Watford Junction to allow for that service to overtake us. It's not going to be quite so straightforward on the North London line because, of course, it's more or less double track most of the way. There are occasionally passing loops. know how easy it would be to modify an existing route on Trains of World 5. I know there's that thing about the routes being baked, as it were, so difficult to modify, but then I've read somewhere where somebody has said it is possible, so not bothered about trying to alter track or adding track in, but it'd be really good if you could go in and just change and replace some of the buildings if that was possible. It's just silly little things sometimes. It's like you see, you know, perhaps there's a petrol station or a supermarket in real life, and it'd be good if you could I know you can do mods to a certain extent, and I remember with Edinburgh Waverley, I don't know if it still works, but there was a mod where they kind of changed the concourse a little bit, and instead of that Reed and Son newsagents, you'd got WH Smith and you got Sainsbury's in there. It's just silly little things like that that just add to the realism, I always think. Here's Bushy. I'm not totally sure the exact length of this journey, because a lot's going to depend on the trip up the North London line, and that's going to be a little bit of a journey into the unknown. The only thing I can guarantee you though is if you are watching this, that it means that we have made it to the end journey, because otherwise I'll have abandoned uploading the video. I really like this section actually between Watford Junction and London Euston, with all the stations on the DC line, and it just feels almost like it's almost a separate route in its own right. Very enjoyable to do those stopping services. Still need a lot more practice though in terms of just getting the braking and everything else just right, because to maintain the timetable is, you've got to be really skillful and knowledgeable. Well, we're getting all the liveries, aren't we, in this run, because we had the Pride livery a bit earlier, now the climate change one. I'm back to playing the game through the headset as well, because somebody made a comment after the last live stream about the fact that you could hear a bit of an echo, and of course that was why. Hope you're enjoying the video, by the way, and as ever, if you've not done it before, if you could consider liking and subscribing to the channel, I'd be massively appreciated, and thank you very much for everybody that has done it previously. So we might have a bit of a wait here because we have a single yellow, so need to be getting our speed down to about 30, so as we're ready to stop at the next signal. Just love the camber here, because we're obviously not tilting with the 37, but who says that you don't get tilting track? Of course, that's long since been a thing. Yeah, it's definitely on red. Make sure we've got plenty of brakes in. Probably cozy it up to the signal a little bit more, I suppose. I was just kind of conscious that these things take a bit of stopping, so I didn't want to overshoot it. I wonder if we're waiting for that 350, because to gain access to the North London line, at some point we've got to go over onto the slow line again, over onto the up slow. So here we have a 710. And a Bakerloo line service to boot as well. And I've got to say, I mean, for absolute variety, yeah, you can't beat the West Coast Main Line. There we go. We have a yellow signal, so we can get moving. Very often see videos of special trains going through on the West Coast Main Line, and obviously nearly always it is the mundane with the general stop, with the 350s, with the Pendolinos, with the Aviro. Still not quite worked out whether it's supposed to be Evero or Aviro, but whatever they're called, the Chester and Holyhead services. And you've got the 807s now, I think, on the some of the services that go through the West Midlands bit. I can't remember if they are supposed to be the ones that are carrying on to Liverpool Lime Street, some of those. Yeah, this is where we're making the transition back onto the slow lines. What do we have in terms of our signal? Can't see it just yet. That's, yeah, we're all right. We're on green, aren't we? There. Nice little scene as well. looking at the outside view, there's something slightly odd. I mean, I love the Dutch route, but there is a little glitch because every time you select the outside view and you go past the catenary, the camera keeps jumping, but it doesn't do that with the catenary here. So I presume now that our signals for double yellow is going to be for the bit that takes us onto the North London line. Try and ease a little bit on the braking. Still can't get over the excitement of seeing the Pendolino in the detail that we have it. And I know that it has its critics, it has its faults, but there's bits of this West Coast main line that is quite magic. I mean, the yard here is quite empty, but it's great that we have a full yard in the game with the 2019 add-on, which is well worth downloading if you're playing this game on PC. And really enjoyed that last run on Sunday stream with the 66 and going through the yard with so much going on. It was just magical. So, I mean, it certainly has its faults, and I know we carp on and about some of the things that we would like to see, but it's not really moaning about them. It's just we want to see faults that have been identified and known about actually corrected and sorted. But the overall experience, though, of playing the game is still something really good, and I have to say I'm like an excited schoolboy really every month waiting for the roadmap to come out. I'm so excited by that screenshot of Crewe in last month's screenshot, and I keep on wondering, and there's been endless speculation about what the route's going to be. Somebody was saying perhaps sort of Crewe to Stratford, but via Stoke and via the main line. I mean, that'd be quite decent, I have to say. And I'd be delighted if we get Stoke into the game as well as Crewe. That would be an absolute delight, but it would be a bit on the short side. But it's all speculation. I mean, it could be Crewe is one of those stations where there are just so many possibilities. Right, now I can see 15 on the radar. We're going to be a bit too fast for that, actually. Going to be an interesting little section. Again, it's a bit of the bit of the line I've not experienced. I've got a video somewhere that I recorded last summer. It wasn't a Class 37, it was a 66 on a freight working, but I think it was at this exact signal that we're going to be coming to a halt at. And it waited absolutely ages, the 66, to get the clearance onto the North London line. Yeah, in terms of realism, I mean, particularly this Forks timetable and this 2019 one that's come out recently has just added so much more interest in the West Coast Main Line South route. I mean, I'm sure it's still good to play it on the console, but it's just not quite as good as this. So we'll try and make sure when we reload the game up that we use the right signal. Don't think this should be too much of a problem in terms of stopping, he says.